Hello, my name is Krista Interview. I just finished my sophomore year at UC Davis.
So what major are you?
Currently, I'm a biological sciences major, and I have not chosen an emphasis. I'm going to be choosing either neurobiology, physiology, and behavior, or marine biology.
And how did you decide on your major?
Um, I I've just always really liked biology, and when I came to Davis, they have a biology major and they have a biological sciences major, so I kind of just poked around in the biology areas, and I realized that um, biological sciences had a couple different emphases that looked really interesting to me, so I just decided to pick biological sciences and decide on the emphasis as I went along and as I took classes in those areas.
So are you having trouble deciding what your emphasis is?
Yes. It is difficult for me to decide because I'm very much torn in two over NPB and marine biology. I'm going to have to make a decision sometime in the next year, which is a little stressful, but I think I'll be happy with either one. I don't think I can go wrong.
How well do you think the first 2 years of your STEM undergraduate degree has set you up to go for either path? How flexible do you think it is?
At this point, it's really flexible. It's really open. At this point, everything is open to me. I'm just looking at it and I get to pick from this wide array of options. I feel like the first 2 years of those STEM classes have really prepared me and really set me up to basically take whichever classes I want to and feel totally prepared in them.
Have there been any classes during those 2 years which you felt were too difficult or not useful or in any way not congruent with how you would have liked to set up your first 2 years for this?
And I understand the need to have a very firm background in chemistry going into a biology major, but I felt that my OChem class was pretty excessively difficult for me, probably because um, I'm not necessarily bad at chemistry, but it's never been my strongest subject. And I took the organic chemistry class um, for pre-med majors, and that was probably not a good idea. I probably should have taken the organic chemistry class for bio majors who aren't going to med school. That probably would have been more at my level. So for me, last year taking 3/4 of organic chemistry was really difficult and probably a lot more organic chemistry than I will ever need to know. So if I could go back again, I would definitely take the easier organic chemistry. I'm kind of on the fence about physics because I thought that some of the topics we discussed were in some ways applicable to biology, but some other subjects I didn't see the point. I didn't see why I was having to take so much physics for being a biology major. I just didn't see why. And it was just kind of a nuisance class that I had to get out of the way.
Did you employ any advising services during these classes, and did they make these classes any less difficult or any more interesting or applicable?
Um, I did once a second quarter of organic chemistry. I was really struggling, and I knew I was going to struggle because everyone said the second quarter was the hardest in organic chemistry. So I took tutoring through the Student Academic Success Center, and it was definitely very helpful. Um, didn't make it more interesting, I would say. I'd say probably when you're coming from my perspective, it's probably pretty difficult to make something like organic chemistry interesting or fun, but it got me through the class, so in that regard, it was very useful.
So, if you had any advice for incoming freshmen who are thinking about doing a STEM major, possibly in biology, what advice might you give them?
Well, I think if you basically just stick to the plan they present you, you take all your chemistry, you take your physics, you take your bio, you take your OChem, and if you do it like I did it, which I feel was a pretty good way to do it, I got all of those out of the way by the time I'm done with my sophomore year.
What is it about Davis and your major and the classes that are in your major that you really like?
Thus far, I have taken a couple upper division biology classes, which I've, for the most part, enjoyed very much. I took um, an ecology class, which is 101, Introduction to Ecology, and I thought that was very interesting, and it was a good class, and I very much enjoyed it. The professors were actually both marine ecologists, which was nice for me because a lot of their examples were marine examples, which is what I'm interested in, so that was nice. Um, but I haven't actually really gotten to take very many upper division classes in my major yet.
Do you feel like because you have not been able to do any classes specifically in your upper division major, do you feel that that's affected your choice in which track you want to go towards or your enthusiasm for your major in STEM?
Um, it's affected my decision making, definitely. I just don't know what I want to do. I didn't come into college going, I want to do this. I came in going, well, I kind of like bio and I kind of like these areas of bio, but I actually like a lot of areas of bio. So I was sort of planning on waiting until I'd taken classes to figure out exactly what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And I haven't taken any classes, basically, in those areas as of now. So it's definitely delayed my decision of what emphasis to choose. In terms of whether it has affected my enthusiasm for my subject, it hasn't, because I'm the type of person who I understand the need to get through the boring classes first, so I don't really resent them very much because I understand their value, even though I don't necessarily enjoy them all the time. Um, I also don't draw my enthusiasm for bio just from school. It's like I read magazines about biology, and I see news stories online about biology, and I go and I figure out things about biology and I experience things about biology on my own outside of school, and that has really kept my interest alive.
Are you involved in any lab research? When did you get involved and how?
Yes, I am involved in lab. I work in the Stackowitz lab in the evolution and ecology department, and I've been working there since probably middle of spring quarter, so a few months now. And I got involved there because I knew I wanted to get some lab experience and do lab research. So I emailed Professor Rick Grosberg, he and Professor Jay Stackowitz. They co-taught my Biz 2B class. I really, really loved that class. I thought they were spectacular teachers, and they seemed like really great people, and they were very friendly when I went to visit them in office hours. So this year, that was my freshman year, but this year when I was looking for a lab position, I thought, hey, I'll email Professor Grosberg and ask him if he has a position in his lab, because I feel like he works with marine invertebrates and marine ecology, and I felt like that would be a really good way to sort of get some experience in that area and see if I like it or not. So I emailed him and I asked him if he would meet with me and talk with me and if he had any positions in his lab. And he was very friendly. He met with me. Unfortunately, his lab was busy. It was full. They didn't need anyone. No one was really looking for any more help. But Professor Grosberg and Professor Stackowitz work very closely together, and their labs are pretty much joined at the hip. So he found a student in Professor Stackwitz's lab who was looking for some more undergraduate help with a project that she was running, having to do with eelgrass up in Bodega Bay, California. And so I started working for her middle of spring quarter. I'm now working in the lab full-time this summer, and I'm doing a lot of extracting DNA and running PCRs and running gene scans and analyzing results on the computer and getting a lot of really, really good hands-on lab experience.
Do you feel like if you had started looking earlier, or if that you would have been able to get a lab position, or do you feel like you weren't ready?
Definitely didn't feel ready for it my freshman year. Not that I couldn't have done it, but when I came here in freshman year, I really just wanted to take a year to kind of explore what options the university had to offer me in terms of extracurriculars and in terms of academics, and I wanted to sort of get my feet under me as a student at Davis. I had this feeling that maybe professors wouldn't be very interested in taking on an undergrad freshman who has basically almost had like virtually no biology classes. I thought, well, maybe I'll just wait until sophomore year because by then I'll have some more bio under my belt. I'll feel more confident in myself as a student, and I'll sort of know how everything works and I'll be able to handle it better. And then sophomore year rolls around and OChem happens. And when OChem happens, it really happens. And I was swamped with work, just absolutely swamped with work, and I didn't feel like I could realistically take on a lab position and still keep my grades up. But I was feeling a lot of pressure because I felt like a lot of my friends were getting lab positions. They were getting all this good experience and I wasn't. And so probably if I'd been left on my own, I probably actually wouldn't have even bothered applying for a lab position until I was absolutely all the way done with OChem. But as it was, I decided to go for it a little bit early. So in the spring, when I was on my last quarter of OChem, I felt like I could handle it better. I applied, or I started emailing then.
Do you feel like you'll have enough lab experience and enough diversity of lab experience to do what it is you want to do after college, and what might that be?
Well, I actually have no idea because I really don't know what I want to do after college. I think what's probably going to happen is I'm probably, unless a really good opportunity pops up somewhere, I'll probably just end up getting a job maybe for a year or two, and then if I really want to go back to grad school, I'll go back to grad school. I don't have a really set in stone, set plan of exactly what I want to do after I graduate, and I don't feel like I really need one. I do feel like having the lab work will be a really good booster for me knowing, maybe helping me decide more what I want to do, what kind of job I want to look for, or maybe it'll look good on a resume. If I am applying for a lab position somewhere, they'll see that I already have all this lab experience, and I think it'll help in that regard. But I don't really see it as sort of being, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have this sort of concrete plan where it's like, oh, I have this lab position and this is really going to help me do this and this and this and this and this. I mean, I'm getting into this because I don't know what I want to do. I feel like I've really, thus far, very much enjoyed my experience, other than sort of struggling with a few classes and learning the ropes of college and everything. I feel like I've been very, for the most part, very supported and very prepared to do what I was doing. Um, One humble suggestion I might make is that for someone like me who got a 5 on her AP bio exam, I thought that most of the undergraduate bio classes, while interesting, were um, very repetitive, and I mostly knew all the information already. It's true that they did go into greater detail than my AP Bio class did, and of course there were labs that went along with them that my AP Bio class did not have because of funding, and we were dirt poor. And if perhaps there was another class for people who had already had a lot of bio in high school, if perhaps there was another class that we could take to just sort of fast track us through that and then move on to upper division bio a little earlier, I think that might be helpful.